Hello and welcome to the channel. My name is Annalisa and this is going to be a check-in for the Reddit Fantasy Bingo card for 2022. My shirt says books, helping introverts avoid conversation since 1454. And this is not my usual setting. I'm at the beach on vacation while I film this, but booktube is my hobby, so I'm still going to do it while I'm on vacation. And also, but I'm not at the beach right now while you're watching this. I'm doing at least 3 videos in advance for September, and I'll tell you a little bit, and I will have told you a little bit more about that, so I won't go into it. But basically, we have a plain background today because I'm in a hotel. And I'm going to talk a little quietly also because I'm in a hotel, but the subtitles should be accurate. There is a Reddit for fantasy readers, but they also do like SFF in general, speculative fic in general, and every year for a while they have had a bingo card where they do a bunch of prompts, and then you take a whole year from April 1st to April 1st to read books that fit the bingo, and then you can talk all about that type of stuff on the Reddit. So it's like a way to stretch people's ideas of what they might want to read and give them inspiration, and also to like be a conversation starter. And this is the first year I'm doing it, and I haven't like been trying really hard to fit the prompts thus far. What I'm doing is I'm seeing if anything I have read since April 1st already fits, and then for the rest of the year I have like 8 months left probably for April, maybe 7 months. Math is difficult, especially since you're watching this in September and I'm filming it in August. But basically, I'm going to go through the prompts. I'm going to tell you what I have either already read or I'm planning to read, or if I still need to find a book to fit that prompt. So the first is from the top right. I'll probably put it up at least for part of this video. LGBTQIA list book. So this means our fantasy has a list of these LGBTQ plus books, and you pick one from that list. So I hadn't read any this term. I use that because I imagine the calendar as a circle. Other people probably don't do that, so this probably means nothing to people who don't imagine the year as a circle. So I went on there, but I found one that has asexual representation, and that's what I am, so I decided I would try to read that one. And it is the Arcane Ascension series, and the first book has over 600 pages, so it'll be a little bit much, but it is also on Kindle Unlimited, and I have a subscription for that right now, so I'm going to try to read it while I have that subscription. I already read the first like 60 pages today, and it was very enjoyable. I think the rest of it's going to be a bit slower. It's a tower. The main character goes into a big tower, and you have to pass tests in various different rooms to ascend in the tower. It's that kind of book, which is a very small niche book-wise. It's more of a video game thing, but it's very interesting. I don't think I've read a book like that before, but the themes are still very familiar because I have played multiple video games like that before. For weird ecology, I picked Batty, which is of the Like a Planet Lovers series, and this story involves 3 different planets: Earth, Laika, where Batty is from, and a 3rd planet that is made up entirely of sponge, and like the planet is a giant sponge. It's an organism, and so it's constantly wet, but also there's oceans in it, and it has tides and stuff. But yeah, the weirdest part that counts the most for the weird ecology is definitely that the planet is a sponge. Then for 2 or more authors, I picked a collection that I read of indigenous poetry called Living Nations, Living Words. For historical SFF, I haven't read anything yet. I think it'll be fairly easy to come up with something, so I haven't looked yet today at what I should pick for that. But I would love recommendations. Set in Space is the next square, and I haven't read anything for that yet, but I'm thinking that that would be a good reason for me to read Escaping Exodus, which I'm pretty sure is entirely set on a spaceship. Then a standalone fantasy, which was harder to come up with than I thought in my already read books, but I found Ikenga. There are no other books in the series of Ikenga. but that one is also set in Africa, and has like multiple other prompts that it could fit, so I might move that around if I read more standalones. Then we have an anti-hero, which means basically a hero that has a lot of moral challenges. It isn't that moral, and I was thinking about possibly reading Nettle and Bone for this, which I might still, but so far I have read Deep in Providence, which has a main character who has a lot of selfish reasons for trying to raise her friend's ghost. That's the main plot of the book, and she like deceives her friends a lot, so I feel like that kind of counts as an anti-hero. Then a book club or read-along book, which is to read a book from one of the fantasy Reddits book club or read-alongs, and there's a whole big long list that you can pick from that's like really easy to look through, as opposed to going and trying to find all of the different read-alongs. But The Past is Red is one that has been a book club of theirs, so I'm going to read that. It should be fairly easy to read, and I was also already intending to read it because it's by Catherine Valente, who's an author I really like, and I've heard really good things about it. Plus I really like the idea of a post-apocalyptic story set on a floating trash island, because I watched I watched a anime that was based on that idea, and I really liked it. Then Cool Weapon, they actually said as an example that an example of a cool weapon would be a lightning sword, and there is a electrical shocky sword in Lady the Mark, so I picked that one. It has very little sci-fi fantasy to it, but it does have sci-fi in the area of weapons, basically. There are various like shocky whips and shocky swords and stuff like that, so I counted that as sci-fi. Then Revolutions and Rebellions, which is very easy because I read and even to do the hard mode of this, which is to have it be the main point of the book, which it is in The Sisters of Reckoning, which I thoroughly enjoyed. It's the sequel to The Good Luck Girls. And then Name in the Title, I picked Amari and the Night Brothers. Then Author Uses Initials, I picked Sin and Spell by A.M. Core, which is a romance featuring a incubus. Then for published in 2022, I'm pretty positive that Witchlings was published then, this year, and I enjoyed that one a lot too. Urban fantasy, I picked This Wicked Fate because that is set in modern day and is a fantasy. Set in Africa, I am planning on reading Akata Woman for this one because I'm already planning on reading Akata Woman, and it shouldn't be that hard to get it finished by next April. For non-human protagonist, I picked Muscles and Monsters, which has a one protagonist who's a human and one protagonist who is a werewolf who is constantly in werewolf form. He's got like a wolf head, anthropomorphic wolf thing. For Wibbly Wobbly Timey Wimey, I don't have a planned book and I haven't read anything for it yet, so if you have any recommendations for that, it's just to read a book that messes with time. So it could be like Narnia, where time moves faster in Narnia and slower in the real world, or the mundane world, or it could be a time travel book, anything like that, even like multiple timelines apparently. And I have read a book like that this year, but not one that was spec-fic. Then 5 short stories. It should be easy to get a short story collection that's fantasy. I don't read those all the time, but I read several a year, so that shouldn't be a problem. Then a book that heavily features mental health, which I picked Grounded for, The Adventures of Rapunzel, because it features having a Stockholm Syndrome isn't really a thing. If you read about the original Stockholm thing, it was more not wanting to cooperate with police and actually being attached to captors. But it is about a girl who has been raised by a extremely controlling person who told her lots of lies about the real world, and her coming to grips with the fact that she's been lied to, and also mourning the relationship, the imaginary relationship she had with this person, and also her relationship that she'd never had with her parents, per the Rapunzel story. So I think that that counts as focusing on mental health. Then for self-publish, I've read a fair amount of self-published books, and Arcane Ascension is also self-published, but I picked That Time I Got Drunk and Saved a Demon, because you're not supposed to double up for any of these. Then the next prompt is award finalist, which is to read a book that got nominated for an award, was a finalist for an award, but did not win an award. There's a whole list of books in the suggested for that, and I looked in those and I think I found one, but now I can't remember what it was. So give me recommendations for that too if you would like to. Then for BIPOC author, I had lots to choose from. I picked Ghost of Rose Hill, which does, now that I think of it, mess with time a tiny bit, because it does talk about stuff that happened at different times a little bit, but not very much. So I'll probably still do a different book for that one, for Wibbly Wobbly Timey Wimey. But it works for this prompt, and then the author is Latinx. And then the next one is Shapeshifters, which I've read several with Shapeshifters, one of which is That Time I Got Drunk and Yeeted a Love Potion and a Werewolf. For no ifs, ands, or buts, you're supposed to pick a book that doesn't have if, ands, or buts, and also several other words, but there aren't any of those words in the title, so this is Ever After. So that's what I picked for that one. I read that in like June. And then for Family Matters, which is a book that features biological family, I picked Boss Witch, which is a book about witches and has 3 generations. So I guess that fits the hard mode prompt too, which is to have 3 generations of a family in the book. And there's a fair amount about their relationships and how the grandma is really toxic. So that is what I've got so far. I'd love to know your recommendations, and also if you plan on taking part in this, or if any of these prompts have like giving you an idea that, oh, I'd like to read a book for that prompt, even if you wouldn't like to do all of them. And thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!